Layoffs are surging, the trade deficit just exploded. Today we're asking, is the economy showing cracks the Fed refuses to see? Welcome back to Navellier Market Buzz. So, Dad, here in New York City, people my age are terrified about layoffs. Major companies announced cuts this past week. Is AI replacing workers faster than we thought?
It appears so. The biggest layoffs were United Parcel Service. Those are high-paid jobs. Those are Teamster jobs. They did lose a postal service contract and did have to shrink the number of centers they have. As you know, Amazon had more layoffs, but a lot of companies are just announcing layoffs. And when they announce layoffs, the stocks tend to rally because people think their operating margins are going to improve. So it sure looks like AI is having an impact. And but if we go back to Amazon and UPS, obviously a lot of that's the warehouse automation, and it's getting to be interesting. So there's a lot of insecurity out there. It showed up in the consumer confidence report, which was horrible. It was the worst in 12 years. So everybody's on edge right now.
Now, I want to switch over to the trade deficit. It jumped 94.6% in November. Gold exports dropped 6.8 billion, while pharmaceutical exports rose 6.7 billion. Does this derail the spectacular GDP growth you predicted?
Well, it definitely put a dent in it because the Atlanta Fed cut their estimate after that report came out, fourth quarter GDP estimate, from 5.4% to 4.2%. And the reason I was anticipating robust GDP growth is I was looking at the robust exports and the lack of imports. And we hit a low in October, one of the lowest trade deficits ever. But unfortunately, as you pointed out, it just went up 94.6% from October to November. And before we had a lot of gold exports. Now the gold exports are falling down over October. Before we had a lot of pharmaceutical exports. Now we have pharmaceutical imports. It's interesting longer term, because we're such a big energy country, between LNG, which is expensive now because of all the cold weather, the crude oil and the refined products, that should be overpowering our trade deficit. So I'm still very, very bullish that the trade deficit is going to meander lower and could eventually disappear. Also, we have a weak dollar, and that makes our exports extra competitive. But this was a shocker. And a lot of people are blaming Trump because he likes to flip-flop on the trade policies. And you saw him do that with Korea. I guess Korea didn't reach the agreement that Trump was expecting them. So he's about to impose 25% tariffs on them if they don't. And I'm sure Korea will come to an agreement. I mean, we do a lot of business with South Korea. We have cars, we have, LG televisions and all kinds of things. It's just fascinating to watch. It was a big surprise. And I think the Fed should have cut because there's just too much anxiety over economic growth, the labor market. And it's unfortunate they didn't cut this past week.
You mentioned gold exports dropping, but investors are doing the opposite. They're buying gold like crazy. I mean, I can't even buy gold at Costco anymore. There are shortages everywhere. So is gold really headed to $10,000 per ounce?
Yeah, it's interesting. Ed Yardeni, let's give Ed credit. He called for $5,000 gold well before it happened. And he said by the end of the decade, we might be at $10,000. I'm going to agree with him on that, only because I don't see any sign of this buying pressure ebbing. You can't buy gold now. It's out of stock. Whether you're buying from a gold dealer or you're buying from Costco, it's really hard to get. And in the past, sometimes you have to wait up to 2 weeks to get your gold. Of course, then the price could be a lot higher by the time you get it. So it's just easier to buy the gold stocks than the actual metal right now, in my opinion. And the buying pressure is just relentless. And then, of course, we have the whole crypto saga, where a lot of the crypto people are probably buying more gold now. And then finally, we have the whole central bank saga, where the central banks have lost their credibility. Some of the governments have lost credibility. So what we call the central bank buying of gold is going to continue. But I just want to remind everybody, gold had its biggest week since 2008 during Davos. So what happened during Davos is the world didn't look very impressive to investors. Okay, obviously President Trump was asserting himself, so was Scott Bassett and Howard Lutnick. and Europe looked very weak. So as a result, gold just had its best week since 2008, and this is going to continue. There's no sign that Japan can fix its budget woes. There's no sign that Britain can fix its budget woes. And there's no sign that France can fix its budget woes. France and Britain both have had tried to tax the wealthy at a higher rate, and it's not working. So in America, we don't quite have that issue because, our economy is so strong, it's generating a lot of tax revenue. And obviously we're still growing. We still keep adding people, although less. The population statistics came out and we are adding less than we used to, probably because of the immigration reform. But we're still going to have immigrants because we need them.
While we're seeing a safe haven demand here, China's caught in a deflation doom loop, falling prices, crashing demand, and a real estate crisis. Could this economic contagion spread globally?
It already has. First of all, this is what happens when your society shrinks. And they have shrinking households in China. And that's why they have empty real estate. And Chinese citizens like to invest in real estate. But they bought a bunch of real estate as an investment they intend to move to. And those buildings never got finished. They just got a bunch of ivy and stuff growing on them now. So China's a mess. And the Wall Street Journal pointed out that merchants really have to discount to sell. And that just puts more deflationary pressure on everybody. So China's very busy exporting. Their exports are still pretty good, even though they're down to the United States. But, oh my goodness, domestically, that's where the deflationary spiral's really out of control. And the only way they can fix that is to devalue their currency. China's interest rates are lower than Japan. You can't cut rates. So you have to devalue the currency, and that will cause prices to go up and stop the deflationary spiral. So that is what I'm expecting. But in the meantime, we're all importing that deflation from China, and I think you'll find the inflationary pressures are going to continue to ebb.
Switching gears to corporate news, Howard Lutnick asked Mercedes to move their headquarters to Alabama. What is behind this?
Well, I'm not surprised because that came out a while ago. Germany has a Green Party, and the Green Party shut the nuclear plants down and basically went to heavy renewables. And it works pretty good in the summer, just in the winter it's not that good. And what happened is their electricity is 4 times higher than ours. And so they started to outsource. Hungary, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia. Now, those Eastern European countries are very dependent upon natural gas. And some of these come from Russia and some of these come from Ukraine. But natural gas has got more expensive, so those countries are less competitive. So President Trump's idea was just move it to America. I mean, we got a fourth of the electricity costs you have. We've got 5 southern states that want your business. They're going to throw incentives at you. Our labor is very qualified and good, but you can bring your labor over here and we'll give them work visas. So this is the first assault to try to move the German auto industry to America. And they already have their plants and everything here. But I thought it was incredibly brazen, and I think Mercedes was quietly polite. They're proud of their German roots, but I think Howard Lutnick is right, and I think it's going to fester over there. The other reason they should come here, other than the cost savings, is the rules. In the EU, they're forced to build hybrids. They have these emission standards they can't comply with. Mercedes has been complaining, as is BMW. They can't compete with the Chinese EVs over there, which are basically have no duties in Europe. So basically, they could just move their operations to America, and we're not going to make them do all that. We're going to let them build big engines that get horrible mileage, and you don't have to have hybrid systems, and you can still build out for other markets. But auto industry would thrive in America versus being choked off as it is now because of the EU regulations. Good idea by Howard. I love Howard Lutnick. I mean, he can be caustic, but in the end, he's right.
Before we get to next week's earnings, can we talk about the wild rides in Celestica, Carvana, and Seagate this past week?
Sure. Well, Celestica beat on sales. Sales were up 42%. Earnings were better than expected. They got it higher. It did get hit with profit taking. Back up the truck on this one. Not worry about it all. Now, Carvana got hit with a short selling report, but then a bunch of analysts came out and defended it. It started to bounce back. There's a lot of confusion in the used car buying business, but Carvana seems to know how to manage it much better than everybody else. So I'm sticking with Carvana now. And then Seagate Technology was our winner for the week, up almost 30%. It just reaffirmed that the data centers are booming, and it wasn't the only data center stock that took off. So that is the strength of the U.S. right now, and we are winning. The one comment I would have is you might have noticed Microsoft didn't rally after its earnings came out. Their cloud business wasn't as strong as some people anticipated. There's a European company, German company, SAP. Their cloud-related business wasn't as strong as some people anticipated. So there was a little cloud over the cloud, if I can say that. But Microsoft has had some outages. The big Outlook outage last week where they had all these phishing emails showed up, and it was annoying a lot of people. So I think this is mostly isolated to Microsoft. And they are a huge cloud provider, but they got competition coming on fast and furious from Oracle. So I think the cloud's still very healthy and growing.
Now let's dive into next week's earnings report. Disney's streaming wars continue. Are they finally making Mickey Mouse money or losing their sparkle?
Well, that's a real good question. And so let's talk about Disney. They're doing better. They beat the past 4 quarters. Their sales are supposed to be up 3.7. That's excellent. And their earnings are supposed to be down 10.5. The analysts have trimmed the estimates, so I think they've set themselves up for another surprise. So I'm very comfortable with Disney. They own ESPN. ESPN's doing some different things now. When you watch a football game, you have like 3 different versions of it. You have the regular announcers, then you have Pat McAfee, or that team is commenting. He's big on YouTube and all. And you can also watch the game from top down. It looks a little better to some people when you see it from looking down on it. So let's see if they can pull it through. I have hope for Disney. I was encouraged with what they did last quarter. Is it strong enough for me to buy it? Absolutely not. But I can see they're on the road to improvement.
Palantir keeps landing government contracts. Is this AI darling justified, or are investors under a spell?
Yeah, you should back up the truck on Palantir. It actually has been weak recently. A lot of people complain about its price earnings ratio, but their sales are supposed to be up over 62%. Their earnings are supposed to be up over 64.1%. The analysts have revised their estimates higher in the last 3 months and has big surprises. This is an AI applier. The other AI applier out there is AppLoving, which had some upgrades recently. So I think as long as Palantir beats and continues to guide higher, it will be fine. But we need Palantir. They're making government more efficient. They're making the military more efficient. So let's hope they keep doing what they do.
Now for Tyson, between the bird flu and changing diets, can this chicken giant still bring home the bacon?
Yes. Of course they can. Now they did close a plant in Nebraska, caused a lot of grief because it's most of the workers in that town, and they also many years ago they bought Iowa beef processors. So Tyson's big in beef as well as chicken, but the chicken business is largely good because the beef prices are so high, and that's because the herds are low. But sales are supposed to be up 2.9%. Earnings are supposed to be down 17.5%. The analyst estimates are very steady, but this company has a good surprise history. So I'm expecting another nice surprise from Tyson. Is it strong enough for me to buy? No, but I have hope. And then one thing we must all add as an American, somehow, whether it was Tyson or somebody else, we've engineered bigger chickens than the rest of the world. So when you go somewhere else in the world, the chickens are a lot smaller. You get to America, oh my God, they're huge. They're like little turkeys. Now, whether that's from us feeding them hormones and other things is another matter. But, let's give ourselves credit for making the world's biggest chickens.
Broadridge makes shareholder meetings possible. Boring business or a beautiful cash machine?
Well, this is a very important company because it sends out all our proxies that we have to vote on and things like that. But they are benefiting from Wall Street being healthy. This is a value stock, though. Their sales are supposed to be up 1%. Earnings are supposed to be down 12.7%. The analysts have trimmed their estimates, but last quarter they had a 21.2% surprise. So I don't recommend financials. This would be considered financial. But there is some M&A activity out there, and as that picks up, they'll get more busy because they got to do all the voting on that. So I have hope for the stock, but again, it's not strong enough for me to pick it up.
Eaton's riding the boom. Is this industrial giant electrifying portfolios?
Yes, it is. And in full disclosure, I owned Eaton, I sold it, but it went higher. This is an example of me selling a good stock to buy better stocks. but their sales are supposed to be up 13.6. Their earnings are supposed to be up 17.3. The analysts just trimmed the estimates slightly, but it's insignificant, and their surprises are very minor. They have a huge automotive business. In fact, Eaton makes what they call the direct shift transmissions, ESG transmissions. And they do other transmissions and other automotive components as well. And they do have a growing data center business, the catalyst of their growth. But it just wasn't strong enough for me to keep holding it. So I did sell it, but I wish them well. I wish all my alumnus well. And most of the stocks I sell do go higher. I'm just trying to jump on something with faster sales and earnings growth. So this company will probably have solid results.
With health trends shifting and consumers cutting back, is Pepsi losing its fizz?
Well, I guess we'll have to see the Super Bowl commercials to figure out if Pepsi's got its mojo back. But in the meantime, their sales are supposed to be up 4.3%. Their earnings are supposed to be up 14.1%. This is good. Now, this is a big multinational. There are no analyst estimate cuts, and it has a decent surprise history. So I have hope for it. But again, this would be considered a value stock. Wouldn't be considered something strong enough for me to buy. But it is evidence of an improving global economy because they're also very big internationally.
Supermicro went from AI superstar to accounting scandal. Dumpster fire or Phoenix rising?
Well, let's just back up what's going on with Supermicro since I own a ton of it. And I got into it a lot earlier than everybody else, and I'm still up a lot. But what happened? A professional short seller who's no longer around accused it of inflating its sales. So what happened? They had an incredible order backlog on sales, pushing 5 years, and there was nothing wrong with the accounting. I went through it. They had an auditor who quit, and the new auditor's doing fine. But they do have a founder who's a little caustic. He's a brilliant engineer, and he apparently doesn't like to talk about accounting. But they did miss last quarter, but they then provided guidance of just this quarter being incredible. So we're holding it because their sales are supposed to be up 82.1%. And I'll be honest with you, I don't care if the sales are up 68% or 90%. I just want to see strong sales growth. Now, their margins have come under compression, and their earnings are supposed to fall 19.1. So you might, why would I own this stock? Well, I don't want to pay the capital gains to sell it. There is another company out there, VRT, that's competing with it, making water-cooled rack systems as well. And VRT is a lot healthier. That's Vertib, by the way. So I'm going to hold Supermicro because of the order backlog. Now, they also have hinted that the customers always want the latest and greatest chips. And so we'll see if they have any comment on that. Vera Rubin will be shipped in the fall. So I think everybody should be happy with their Blackwell chips right now. But eventually they will shift to Vera Rubin. And that's supposed to be 10 times more energy efficient, a lot faster. So there's going to be a replacement cycle helping all these companies as well. So I'm proud I found Supermicro early. I don't think the short seller comments were valid at all. I stuck with the stock throughout all that scandal, we should say, even going through another auditor. But if the company has any problem, its founder and CEO is just not that Wall Street friendly. So let's hope they have a good results and a good call, and all will be forgiven.
FedEx should benefit from e-commerce, but numbers are all over the map. Can they deliver?
Well, that's an interesting question. Well, how do I say this in a nice way? They're improving. Their sales are supposed to be up 5.6. Their earnings are supposed to be down 10.6. Analysts have trimmed the estimates slightly, but they had a big surprise last quarter, 17.2. So it looks like they're picking up. And I have issues with FedEx Ground. You may know that we've been known to have wine delivered to our house every now and then. And we're always fighting with our FedEx Ground guy. And we've been known to chase him down the street to get our wine because he doesn't like to go up our driveway to deliver. He just likes to put a note and then the wine disappears. And it usually goes back. So I have this personal animosity to this one delivery driver in our neighborhood. So I should stop that right now and say that FedEx had a nice surprise. They are improving. I wish them well. Again, this will not be in my portfolio. It's not strong enough.
Google's facing AI competition. Can they maintain their search dominance?
Yeah, they've done a phenomenal job with Gemini. And, I use the Google Chrome, and somehow Gemini's talking to me all the time, and even when I don't want it. So let's talk about Google. Their sales are supposed to be up 15.5%. Their earnings are supposed to be up 23%. The analysts have revised their estimates higher, and last quarter they had a 26.9% surprise. That is outstanding. The biggest problem with Google is they don't give guidance, but it certainly looks like they've stealing the Chat GP throne from Microsoft, because Microsoft was behind Chat GPT, and their Gemini is now the preferred search engine out there. Of course, Grok is very popular too. Um, so I have a lot of hope for Google. I don't own it at this moment, but it's on my radar, and I might be adding it.
Eli Lilly's weight loss drugs are printing money. Is this pharma giant unstoppable?
Yes, it is. I own it. It's a very large allocation in our portfolios, and their sales are supposed to be up 32.7%. Their earnings are supposed to be up 30.6%. And the analysts have been revised higher in the past 3 months. This company's got a great surprise history. Last quarter was 19.2. So I've got a lot of hope for Eli Lilly, and they're doing what Trump wants. They're making the drugs here and exporting them.
Qualcomm's betting big on AI smartphones and laptops. Game changer or overhyped?
No, they came out with 3G, then 4G, then 5G. And, 5G is pretty fast. In fact, you can get a 5G hotspot from a lot of the phone companies, cell phone companies. But their sales are supposed to be up 3.9%. Their earnings are supposed to be down 0.7%. But the analysts have revised their estimates higher in the last 90 days, and it has a good surprise history. Not big surprises, but consistent. So I would expect Qualcomm to post good results, and I hope they earn money. This is a flagship. It's not strong enough for me to own it, but it is improving.
Toyota's going all in on hybrids while others push EVs. Smart strategy or stuck in neutral?
Well, how do I say this in a nice way? It looks like Toyota was smarter than everybody else. So during the EV boom, Toyota wanted to do hybrids, not all electric. And it turned out they're right. Once the incentives for EVs were pulled, and they weren't just pulled in America, they were pulled in other countries as well, EV sales kind of dried up. Now, in a super urban area, EVs are very popular, but as you have to drive more and more, they're less popular. Hybrids are the best of both worlds. They're great for the city driving. Obviously, the Prius is phenomenal. Toyota's hybrid system is actually used by other auto manufacturers. We had a Porsche Cayenne hybrid many years ago. Transmission was a Toyota transmission. Porsche actually used all the Toyota bits to make that truck. And the other thing that's going on with Toyota, Lexus just had record sales, and they have a new luxury brand called Century, which they have used in Japan. They're going to start trying to roll out in other markets. I do not know if it's coming here, but it's kind of like a Maybach brand, and it'll be interesting if they try to sell that in America. Obviously, their Lexuses sell very, very well. So yeah, this is the leading automotive company in the world, and the most efficient, and their sales are supposed to be at 3.9. Their earnings should be flat. There was an analyst cut, pretty dramatic in it recently. So we shall see. I don't know if that was for tariffs or what, but obviously they build a lot of their vehicles in America, especially all the trucks. So I have hope for Toyota. They did not surprise the last 2 quarters, but if you want one of the leading automotive manufacturers, this is it. TM.
Uber's finally profitable, but robo taxis are coming. Is their ride about to end?
I don't think so. Uber has, of course, its own robo taxi service. It's launching in LA. And what's interesting is Tesla has a software upgrade coming out where your Tesla can become a robo taxi. And I think this is going to be rolled out a little bit more carefully. But in theory, you could park your car and it could be out there for 10 hours a day being a robo taxi. So I think it's going to take some time because Uber has the lead. They also have their own robo-taxi service. They're all launched in LA and other markets. They use other vehicles. They like vans because vans can carry more load. Their sales are supposed to be up 19.8%. Their earnings are supposed to be down 80% though. So, and their earnings, analysts haven't changed their estimates at all. But last quarter, they had a 353% earnings surprise. So we shall see. I think when the robo-taxi wars are over, whoever has the best software, and Uber has the lead, and I do expect Uber to win the robo-taxi wars largely due to its software.
Amazon's cutting costs and pushing AI hard. Can they keep the e-commerce crown?
Well, let's just talk about Amazon a bit. Amazon, years ago when Bezos was busy running it, this is when he lived in Seattle before he moved to Florida and ran off and got married again. But when he was running it, Amazon was all cloud computing. And retail actually wasn't a profit center. It's kind of like it basically was treading water. The management now at Amazon is making sure every aspect of Amazon is efficient. So they've automated the warehouses like crazy. They've announced more and more layoffs, but however, when they announced some layoffs, then they hired some temp workers. So it's interesting. On the layoffs here this last week, they didn't announce temp hiring, but as a company, they're becoming much more efficient. Now they have that Whole Foods venture, but they also had another supermarket that they're curtailing their business on because I guess it hasn't been that profitable, and that's where some of the layoffs were centered. So we shall see. Now, sales is supposed to be up 12.5%. Earnings supposed to be up 4.3. Analysts estimates are steady, but my goodness, this company has big surprises. And last quarter was 25%, previous quarter 26%. So I'm expecting another surprise, and but it's just not strong enough for me to own right now. And I have my average sales earnings are stronger than this. But we wish Amazon well. It's obviously something almost everybody uses nowadays.
Bloom Energy's fuel cells could power the AI data center boom. Real deal or pipe dream?
Oh, no. This is the real deal. And Bloom Energy is mostly doing it with Oracle and Brookfield, which owns data centers. And the reason the stock shot up this year is they agreed to build a big plant in Wyoming to provide clean electricity. So Bloom Energy takes a natural gas pipe, runs it through their natural gas fuel cells, and in theory, it's a lot greener than running natural gas through a turbine. So as the cloud booms, it gets a lot of criticism for all the carbon emissions and things like that. In fact, forget which British magazine I was reading that was highly critical of America destroying the planet from our data centers. Anyway, Bloom Energy's fuel cells are just a lot more efficient. So obviously, a lot of tech companies like Microsoft want to do nuclear. Obviously, that's green because there's no carbon with nuclear. But doing it with the fuel cells makes a lot of sense. And this company didn't make money until recently. It's explosive what they're doing now. Their sales are supposed to be up 12.7. Their the earnings are forecasted to be down 30%. But this company has huge surprises historically. So I'm just going to let them come out and guide higher. 2 quarters ago, they had a 457% surprise. And the previous quarter was a 47% surprise. So with all the new contracts in the pipeline, I think the future is very bright for Bloom. But this company's going to trade more on its guidance than anything else. I forgot to mention we own it. We own Bloom Energy.
Okay. Well, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us this Sunday. If you haven't checked out our last Sunday video, we are currently doing a giveaway for 5,000 subscribers. We will end this giveaway starting this week, so please make sure to check out that video and fill out the Google form so that you can win a free signed book. But thank you all so much for watching. Give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already. But we will see you this Wednesday for a midweek update.